my music-loving friends. Today, we're going to make a little picture to help you think about your note reading. Now, I don't know how many videos you have done of mine already, but I like to fold my paper to make everything very organized, and I'm going to show you how to do that right now. When the paper's like this, we call this landscape orientation. You don't have to remember that, but when you see it like this and not like this, it's important that you put your paper the same way. Let's start by folding it in half this way. So we go this way, we make sure that those corners line up really nicely. And then once they line up, I'm pinching it to hold it tight so it doesn't go all over the place. And then I start my fold like so. And then once my fold is kind of how I want it, then I grab the nearest utensil and I smash it. I happen to have my scissors handy. You can use your fingernail to smash that fold. I don't want to ruin my manicure, so I'm just using the handle of my scissors to make a nice tight crease there. Okay, now we want to fold it in thirds from here. And the best way to fold a paper in thirds is to start your fold, but don't smash it yet. And ask yourself, does this look about the same width as this? From here to here should look about the same as from here to here, and it doesn't need to be perfect. So just see if it looks about the same. And when you're happy with this spacing, then you do your fold. And of course, you smash it. All right. So now it looks like this. And we want to fold this over again like so, but I actually find it easier if I go back like this. So I'm going back like this. I'm making sure my corners don't get all wild and unruly. And then once I'm confident that everything's lined up, make sure on the other side that everything's lined up. And then I pinch it and I hold it down to the table and I smash that fold. There it is. And then I crease it with my scissors. And you can see mine is not perfect, but that doesn't matter. We're just making a drawing and using this to help us be a little bit more orderly about that. So now I'm running my finger along the back of those folds so that the paper will lie flat again. I'm opening it all the way up. And now what I have is this piece of paper that has 6 columns on it that are going to help me keep my drawing very neat and tidy. We need to do one more fold. So my paper is landscape again, and I'm going to fold top to bottom like so. And I'm lining up my corners again very neatly. And then I'm pressing that fold and making a good hard crease. So what do I have here? I have a piece of paper with a bunch of lines on it to help me draw a really nice picture. So we're going to be drawing a note reading house today. Now, if you've done any amount of note reading, you know that we draw our notes on something called a staff, and that has 5 lines in it. And we're going to draw those in first so that we have plenty of room for our notes that we put in eventually, and then we'll build a house around it. So you have this middle line right here, and you're going to draw one line that goes all the way across that. So starting over here, it doesn't need to be perfect. If you really like your lines to be perfect, you need a ruler for that. But as you can see, I'm just following that line. I'm not going quite to the edge of the page because I'm trying not to get ink on my background here. All right, now I said the staff has 5 lines. And so to keep our spacing relatively even, we're going to use a finger space. So I stick my finger here and make a little mark. I see where that mark is, and then I'm going to draw a line that kind of goes along that. I'm making it as straight as I can, but I'm not using a ruler. Again, a craft or a drawing doesn't need to be perfect to be beautiful, does it? I'm going to make another finger space because I need 5 lines. I've only got a few so far here. So now I'm going to draw a line along there. So I have 3 lines now, but as you know, we need 5, and we're going to put the other 2 on top. So find a finger space, make a little mark, draw your line. 1 more line to go, finger space, little mark, and your line. So now you have this beautiful staff. I bet yours looks so good. Okay, now it's time to build our house. What does a house need? Obviously it needs some walls, doesn't it? So you have these other fold lines And I am most interested in this one right here, right now. So that you don't need to fold yours, I'm just showing you where mine is in the video here. But this little fold line over here is where we're gonna put the first wall of our house. So I'm starting on the bottom line of the staff, and I'm gonna draw that wall so that it goes a little bit above the staff, like that. And then on the other end of the staff, I'm gonna draw another wall. It doesn't matter if you have some staff lines hanging over the end, that's okay. So that wall needs to go just as high as the other one. And then it's time to put a roof on your house. So that roof needs to start in the middle. And again, you don't need to fold yours. I'm just showing you where the fold line is. Right in the middle, you have a line. And from that middle line, you're going to start your roof up high and you're going to come down low. So it goes over the wall of your house. And then we're going to make one on the other side that looks the same. Now we're starting to get somewhere. Okay, so my viola playing friends. Let's make your house look so good. I don't know any house that has zero landscaping. Landscaping is like trees and shrubs and things like that, some grass. So we are going to put a delightful little bush over here, but we're going to draw an alto clef, and that's going to be your little bush over here. So the way that we're going to do this is I'm going to draw it in green, like it's a bush. And when I'm doing that first one, you're not going to copy me yet. And then I'm going to trace over it again in black so you can see it really clearly, and then you're going to do it with me. That way you get a good view of what it looks like when you're not trying to copy in the moment, okay? So right now, it's my turn and not your turn. Okay, so as a viola player, you're reading something called alto clef. Now, alto clef has two lines on the side over here, one line, and the first line is a little bit thicker, so I'm going to actually put another line right next to it and color that in. I'm not going to color it super thoroughly right now because I'll do that when we are putting it in together, okay? So you have a little bit of a thicker line, and then you have a thin line right next to it. Okay, so that's how we get started. And then we're going to draw kind of an upside down V. I'm going to turn my paper for just a moment to do that. So from this middle line, I'm going to draw a little V upside down, kind of like the top of a triangle there. Okay, then I'm going to turn my paper back this way for the next part of the drawing. And for this, I want a semicircle and a semicircle. So it looks like this. It touches that middle line and then it goes back around. Okay, it's not touching this line, but it's very close to it. And then the other one is the same, but in the opposite direction. So it goes up, it touches that middle line. It goes around, it touches the bottom line. So it takes up the entire staff by the time that you're done with it. So you can see that vaguely resembles a bush. So now let's do it together. I'm switching to black so you can see very clearly what that looks like while we do it. Let's start with that thick line on the side. So draw a line close to the edge of your page, draw another line close to that, and then we're going to fill that in. All right, so now I'm going to color it a little bit thicker. If you have different kinds of writing utensils, maybe you have a thicker marker or something you want to do this part with, but I'm just going to use my pen and color it in. Again, it's not going to be perfect. That's okay. When you draw smaller alto clefs in the future, they're actually maybe a little bit easier to draw. All right, so now I've got that line how I want it. So now I'm going to draw the next one. So I'm just drawing one thin line that takes up the entire staff. And then we're going to put that little triangle or upside down V in the middle here. So starting from the middle line, you go out a little bit and out a little bit. And then you turn it back, and it's time to put those semicircles in. So we start here, we go down, we touch that middle line, we go back up and around, and then we do the same thing on the bottom in the opposite direction. We touch the middle line, we touch the bottom line, and there we go, a delightful alto clef. So now I'm going to be using some colors for the next part of this. Now you'll notice we drew this wall of the house right on this fold line. I'm about to do a fold. You don't need to copy this. I'm just showing you where that fold is. On your paper, I know you can see your fold lines, but in the video, I also know fold lines don't show as well as I'd like them to. So between this fold line and the next one, we're going to write the notes of your C string. Now, this is just a very kind of basic introduction to note reading. So we're not going to write a whole lot of information. We're just going to draw the notes, and then we're going to describe what part of the house those notes are contained in, okay? So first, I'm using my black pen, because I'm going to make some extra little lines. We need to fit 4 notes in that first column that I was just showing you with the folds. And in that space, we're going to be putting the notes of your C string. That's your lowest sounding string. So it's the lowest one on the staff. The staff is very organized. So if a note looks low, it sounds low. If it looks high, it sounds high. So for your C string, we need an extra line here and an extra line here. Okay, and now I'm going to switch to colors. All right, so starting with green, you can start with whatever color you want, although I do think using different colors is a good idea. So your C string is so low that it's just underneath this little line. So we're going to draw a little circle here, and we're going to label it with a C. As I was saying, the staff is very orderly, so every time a composer wants you to add a finger to the string, they'll put the next note higher up on the staff. So that means that our next note needs to be a circle that goes around this little line that we just drew, like so. So the line looks like it's going right through there. The next note that you need to know how to play would be your second finger. And that sits right underneath the staff, touching but not going around that bottom line, just touching it and barely at the top. All right, and then finally, the final note that we're going to label on your C string is going to be on that line. What room of the house would this be? Such a good question. It's down in the cellar, and cellar starts with C, so that's a good way of remembering it. And what is in the cellar? Well, there are lots of people living in this house, and in this house you have a cousin who's very crafty. So down in the cellar is your cousin's craft room. Cousin is spelled C-O-U-S-I-N. We need an apostrophe S, cousin's craft room. Craft, C-R-A-F-T, and room, R-O-O-M. And if you like to think of the cellar, because it's underneath, it's underground. Look how low those notes are. Cellar is spelled C-E-L-L-A-R. Okay, time for a new color. I'm going to go with blue for my next one. So the next string that we're going to label is your G string, and that goes in this column right here between this fold and this fold. And your G string, the G string with no fingers, is right in the next space up. So you ran out of fingers on the C string, now you go to the G string. Let's label that with a G. And then every time you add a finger, it goes up to the next line or space. It needs to take up a line and a space and a line and a space, okay? So the G is in the space, and then the A, that's your first finger on G. We'll talk more about letter names in other videos. Is right around that next line. And then the next finger, the second finger, that'd be called a B for what it's worth, is in the next space between these two lines. And then finally, your third finger on the G is going right around that middle line of the staff. Okay, so what room of the house is this? Well, in this house, we also have Grandpa living there. And, you know, I had a grandfather who lived to be almost 101, and he was very active his entire life, and he liked to paint. So I'm going to make this Grandpa's Painting Studio. So Grandpa, G-R-A-N-D-P-A, apostrophe S. Anytime it's somebody's something, it belongs to them, we need that apostrophe. Grandpa's Painting, P-A-I-N-T-I-N-G, Studio, S-T-U-D-I-O. So that's where Grandpa does his painting. It's on the first floor of the house. Okay, next is your D string. You know, you have C, G, D, and then A. Your D string is not in the first space, not in the second space. It's in the third space. And it needs to be touching the lines around it, but not with the line going through it. So we're going to draw that. All right, so that's your D string. Let's label that with a D. So then each note on the D string goes up a line or a space, up a line. So the next note, if you put your first finger down, looks like this with this line going right through it. Then when it's time to put your second finger down, it goes in this space here. And then for your third finger, it sits right on this top line right here with the line going through it. What room of the house is appropriate for describing the second story of the house? Here, we're gonna call this Dad's office. Dad's office is on the second floor. He can get some peace and quiet up there and do his work. And Grandpa can be painting downstairs and your cousin's crafting down in the cellar. Let's put Dad's office on here. So Dad's, D-A-D apostrophe S, and then office, O-F-F-I-C-E. Okay, so this next room has the A string in it, and the A string is so high for the viola that the A string itself sits right on top of the staff. So let's draw a circle to represent the note that is your A string, and it sits right on top, not with the line going through it, but on top of it. Let's label that as your A string. And on the A string, we're gonna do some extra notes. So the next note, we need some additional lines. I'm gonna switch back to my black pen for a moment. We need 3 extra lines going across. 1, I need that a little bit longer. 2, 3. You notice I went into my final column a little bit, and that is okay. And actually, we need a 4th. And we actually need to add lines to this and this, so that we have another set of extra lines on top. So we're going to add a little line here and a little line here. So this is your highest sounding string, so that's why these notes look so high. If it sounds high, it looks high, and vice versa. All right, so that first finger goes around that first extra line that you drew. The second finger sits right on top of that. The third finger goes around that second line that you drew. That's super high. And then the 4th finger, if you're playing with your 4th finger, if you're not, you will. Okay, so what room of the house is up here? Well, it could be the attic, which starts with an A. That's awesome. I like that. But also, your auntie likes to go up there and do her sewing. So this is going to be the attic, A-T-T-I-C, for aunties, A-U-N-T-I-E, apostrophe S, sewing, room, S-E-W-I-N-G, and then room. You know how to spell room. We already did that one. The attic for auntie's sewing room. All right. We need to add one more thing to this house, because when you are a very proficient viola player, you're going to play notes that go even higher than this. There'll be so many extra lines. So instead of drawing all those, we're going to put a little chimney on the house right here. Chimney. And then we're going to make some smoke coming out of the chimney like so. Just a little puff of smoke going up, and this is where you'll have some extra notes going up. See how we drew some extra lines here? There could be more lines even than that, and you play way up on the A string. So there you go. Now you have a drawing to help you remember where each string sits on the staff. So notes way down low are your C string. Notes on the first floor of the house in the bottom of the staff, that's your G string. Notes on the second floor of the house up high on the staff are notes on the D string. And finally, anything from here on up is on the A string, even if there are extra lines there. All right, thank you for drawing with me.